footprints lead here. We gotta be inside. Okay, just gotta get through this door. Shit, it's locked. Come on, piece of shit!
Should have stretched before I did that. Okay. Hello? You in here? Hey, where you at? Huh? I know it's been a minute, but I thought we agreed that you'd stay in the spot and wait. Where are you? Oh, wait, I see a candle. Hey, are you in here? Holy shit. It's really you. I've been looking for you for... What the hell's wrong with you? Why'd you pick up a weapon? It's me. What, you got something against me now? Are you pissed? Why are you looking at me like that? What is it with you? Who am I? Is that a joke? What do you mean, who am I? You don't recognize me. Do you really not remember me? I knew it would have some lasting effects, but not like this. Listen, I know you. You may not know me, but I know you. And I wouldn't hurt you. Put the spear thing down. Let's talk. Okay. Can I sit? Good. Wait, actually, before I sit, let me go close that door. Okay, that's better. Seems like you woke up a little early. Well, I'm sure you don't know what I mean. Do you remember my name? No, you don't even recognize me, do you? I look familiar? Okay, well, at least there's that. Listen, I don't know what happened, and I don't know how bad it is. What's the last thing you remember? That far back. My God. I'm glad you're sitting down. Listen. You don't remember the last few years of your life. And I can understand that that might come as a shock to you. But it's true. I'm a sort of a friend, I guess you could call it, of yours. And we agreed that on this day I would come get you. Seems that you woke up a few hours before you were supposed to. Not only do you not remember the last few years of your life, you've been asleep for a year. Hey, listen. I know it's scary, and it sounds like I'm lying, but I'm not. Well, not about this. So, that's the last thing you remember, huh? Listen. If it'll help, I'll go through every event that happened to you in the last few years, so that you remember who I am, and more importantly, who you are. In the meantime, get warm. We have a lot to go over. When I was a little boy, my mother told me that the reason it rains is because angels cry. And the only time angels cry is when the good die young. I never believed it, nor didn't believe it. It just seemed like a little anecdote that I held trapped in the back of my mind. But on that day, I fully understood it, and believed it. I'm getting ahead of myself. Apologies. Let me put us back on track. It was a day like any other. You were toiling away in your hut with your grandmother, your only living relative that you knew of. Your parents were so far from your memory that their existence never occurred to you. Your grandmother was all you knew. She was a witch, and an extraordinarily talented one at that. She became the talk of the town wherever she roamed. She offered medical assistance, fortune-telling, and an oracle-like warning of the future to those who requested it, in hopes that they heed said warnings. All your life she had trained you to take her place when she would pass. In the back of your mind, you knew that was a long way off, knowing her energy. She was the perfect witch, yet she did not act as a witch would typically act. She did not use magic to lazily clean her home. She didn't ride around on a broom. She didn't speak in riddles, ambiguously threaten guests, or point her bony finger at them and repeat doom sayings over and over. She didn't cackle at the first sign of confusion of her guests, instead more likely to explain to them in detail until they understood. She was a witch, very much not like any other, and you adored her as she adored you. The day was beginning to come to a close. The sun was setting in the sky when she asked you to chop some wood for the fire. The winter was approaching fast, and you needed to stay warm any chance you got. You left the home with your jacket and began chopping away at the nearby wood you had gathered earlier in the day. You swung your axe with great determination and ferocity. You liked to daydream. You imagined the axe as your mighty sword and the log as a fearsome creature. You swung the axe with all your might, vanquishing your foe. You briefly celebrated when you heard the sound of clapping nearby. You looked behind you, only to see no one there. You could have sworn you heard your grandmother clapping at you. You turned around to the log, only to see two people approaching you. One was dressed almost entirely in black, and the other almost entirely in white. Yet they both wore frayed black dusters. You gripped your axe defensively. The taller one, the one in white, approached you, continuing to clap.
And thus did the brave knight expel the evil from this mortal plane with the edge of the hero's weapon, and peace was restored unto the world. Marvelous, marvelous. Ah, how I love a happy ending. Hello there. I suppose from your expression you weren't expecting visitors. How do you do? Is the good witch in this evening?
You didn't reply, but you slowly raised your axe. The other person, the one in black, moved his coat from his waist and displayed a silver firearm. You saw it and immediately put the axe down. The one in white frowned, looking back. They waved the one in black down.
Oh, come now, Raven. There's no need for hostility. We're here in good faith. If you feel more comfortable being armed, please, I insist you do so. I really don't mind. So tell me, is the good witch in this evening? She is? Wonderful. Would you mind letting us speak with her? I assure you, we are not here for violence or even disagreement. We are simply here to request her audience, and then we shall be on our merry way. Isn't that right, Raven?
Right. You hesitated for a few moments. Your grandmother was adept at defending herself if need be. You'd fled several villages when people didn't like her prophecies or medical advice. You didn't want to test that against what appeared to be vampire hunters, judging by their attire. You decided it would be insane of them to want to hunt your grandmother and agreed to let them follow you. You opened the door to your hut and let them inside. You saw your grandmother stirring a pot with her back turned toward you. You open your mouth to call out at her, but she cuts you off.
It's all right, little one. I knew they were coming. But you made the right decision.
She turned to face you and the hunters. She smiled and approached you slowly with her cane.
I am Greta of the Olive Glow. Whom do I welcome inside my home?
A pleasure. I am Swan. This is Raven. We thank you for granting us audience inside your lovely abode.
What a dump.
And what is it exactly I can do for the two of you this evening?
Do you know of the town of East Lodge?
I do. Though I've never made my presence there.
Indeed. Well, Raven and I have received a request from the mayor of East Lodge. There was allegedly a mighty gruesome murder there. They suspect it was foul play from nearby monsters. One, in particular. We don't know for sure, but they have reason to believe a local vampire went out for a midnight snack, so to speak.
How awful. I shall say a prayer for their family and for their soul.
I think that would be very nice, but I wonder if you can do better. I hear you have a wonderful understanding of biology and can inspect bodies to determine not only cause of death, but what exactly caused it. Just because there is reason to believe a vampire did it, does not mean one absolutely did. We would like to be certain. We are requesting your assistance in this case. We would give you everything you require, keep you away from immediate danger, and would return you with money or food for the winter.
What a lovely offer. But I'm afraid I must decline.
Look, Grandma, an innocent woman was killed, and you can help us bring the bastard who did it to justice. So unless you want to stand around doing nothing and maybe let it happen again, I suggest you pack a bag and get in the carriage.
Young man, I am ill. I'm not as young as I used to be, and my lungs get weaker by the day. I simply cannot make that kind of journey, as I may not make it back from it. Please understand. I think another body on your hands would make your job even harder, am I right?
That's... I suppose. Then what are we supposed to do? We need to be certain that what we're after is a vampire, because if it is, we're going to need a lot more than firepower to kill such a being. And we'd like to know ahead of time.
Well now, I didn't say I would leave you without any help. Tell me more about this case, if you wouldn't mind.
A choir girl from a local church was run down and killed at night on the road back to town. We heard there's bite marks around the neck and a severe loss of blood. They think it's a vampire, but are currently unsure. We need the help of someone experienced in biology and monster behavior to come help us find out what happened and who did it, so we can kill them.
How dangerous exactly would it be for somebody who is helping you?
It wouldn't. We don't typically take help from others, let alone ask for it. If we are asking, We're going to make sure whoever it is stays out of the fighting as much as possible, unless they're otherwise convinced to jump into the fray, which, fine with me. Another person on our side makes it more targets for them.
Just how long would they be gone, exactly?
I don't know. You want an exact time? Girl got murdered by an extremely powerful being. It could take days, weeks, maybe longer. I don't think it'll take longer than a week, but you never know with things like these. If it's a vampire, it's two things: smart and confident. Whichever of those things it is more of will dictate whether it left the town entirely or stayed in place. We have no idea what we're dealing with yet.
And what if it is a vampire?
Then it's dead meat. We've dealt with all kinds of monsters before, vampires included. We just need to be prepared before we fight it.
So the chances of someone getting hurt who's helping you would be
0. Your grandmother turned to you with a smile, and instantly you knew what she wanted you to do. You shook your head and showed a scared expression, but she gave you a reassuring look and you sighed.
My grandchild will assist you. Fear not, I've taught them everything they know. They're merely a younger, more able-bodied version of myself. They can help you with anything that you may need. Besides, they're an adult now. It's time they ventured out into the world and saw things with their own eyes.
Splendid idea. We will leave immediately. Please pack whatever you need and let's hit the road.
You cannot be serious. We can't take a kid with us. We're not babysitters.
You just said it would be fine, didn't you? And you're right. Besides, I said the same thing about you, and look where we are now, young man. Besides, you're about the same age. You can talk about this kid stuff.
Every day I wake up and you're still there is a bad day.
Very well. Swan. Raven. Please take good care of them. I only have one grandchild, you know.
Indeed. Now then, we've told you our names. What's yours, my new friend?
Well, now, that won't be necessary, will it? After all, hunters do not go by their real names once they take up the oath, so why should they?
Ah, fair point. Very well. It's common to give our newest recruit a code name. How about... a quiet one? I don't know much about you other than you're as quiet as... Mouse! Your name is Mouse. Yes, of course. Why not? Do you not like it? Don't worry. Raven didn't like his name when he first got it.
Still don't.
My point exactly. Come then, Mouse. Let us depart.
You said your goodbyes to your grandmother, wondering how many days it would be until you returned. You hoped to see her within a week, but you had no idea. You packed a knapsack full of clothing and important items you needed for the job. This was your first paid job. It excited you, but scared you to be away from your grandmother. But you figured you had to grow up eventually. You guessed now was that time. You walked outside to see the carriage was not what you expected. There were no horses, cattle, dogs, nothing. No animal in sight. The carriage was the size of your hut, a very long, tall contraption.
What is it? Ah, yes, I suppose that is off-putting for new people. Our, carriage is mechanical. It drives itself, in a sense. All we have to do is steer it. The hunting corps gave it to us as a means of travel. You'll even have your own room, albeit not very spacious, but...
You stepped foot inside the carriage to see a small kitchen, a dinner table, and many doors down the hall. At the table sat Raven, who was cleaning his many firearms. He looked up to greet you. Swan made you feel at ease. Their natural charm and smile brought warmth to your heart, even not knowing them very well. But Raven wasn't so kind. His stare was cold and blank. His honey-colored eyes should have been warm, but they couldn't be further from the truth. He He removed his hat, revealing dark brown hair that nearly touched his eyes. He stood up and motioned you to follow. All right, rat. This'll be your room. It's small, cramped, and cold, but you ain't staying with us for long, so it shouldn't be a problem. If there is a problem, take it up with Swan. I don't have time to take complaints. Huh? Your name? What about it? Ugh. Mouse, rat, it's all the same. Doesn't matter since you won't be with us for very long, so what difference does it make? Anyway, these are your digs. The toilet is across from you. We don't have a shower, so don't ask. Anything else? No? Good. If you need me, find a way not to, and figure it out yourself. Charming young man, that one. You rolled your eyes. This guy's attitude was ferocious. It was clear you weren't welcome here, and you vowed then and there to make this journey as quick as possible. You sat on your bed. It was rickety and uncomfortable. You already missed home. There was a knock at the door.
It's just me. Please come out here. We need to go over the plan, if you'd be so kind.
Yes, thank you. Please, have a seat. This won't take long at all. So, let's go over the facts. We're headed out for the town of East Lodge. There was an alleged vampire attack there, and there's only so many other options it could be. However, it is vital we explore those other options before we commit to hunting a vampire. We know the victim as Sister Annabeth, a choir singer for the new East Lodge Church. She was 19 years old, 5'6", and was on the road between East Lodge and the old abandoned East Lodge Church that hasn't been used in well over 30 years. We do not know why she was there yet.
Is there anything else on that path between those two locations?
Not that we know of, but we'll have to do some exploring around the crime scene to decipher the reason that she might have been there. So, the plan is simple.
Have Rat inspect the body and tell us what really killed her. Then figure out the locations that may serve as a home or safe house for the perpetrator, then eliminate them.
Many more steps than that, but yes. We'll need to speak with the mayor and the local authorities to be granted full jurisdiction of the surrounding area. Are you following so far, Mouse? I'm so glad. Your presence will only be needed for a few steps of the investigation, and then you will be kept safe inside our carriage.
Unless you're not a coward and want to help us kill whatever it is that did this.
Raven.
What? They're a witch, right? Apprentice or not, they know a few spells. I expect you to be able to shoot a fireball or something.
Goodness, Raven, they're a witch's apprentice, not an archmage. Please be patient with them.
Patience don't get me paid. Look, Rat, if you're just here to look at a bite mark and tell us what it is, that's fine. But if you want to make a damn difference, I suggest you start practicing your incantations, because this ain't gonna be easy. Besides, maybe you'll even impress some people and you'll start getting jobs too.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Oh, here, just in case.
Swan pulled out a dagger in its sheath and slid it to you. You picked it up and drew it. It shined and showed your reflection. You made a mental note to clean your face up. You put it back in its sheath and stowed it on your leather belt.
I don't want you to have to use that, but I don't want you to not have it either. Please be safe, all right?
I saw that look in your eye. You're a little scared that you might not be able to draw it in time. Well, relax. Swan and I won't let anything get to you. We're very experienced. Plus, it'd be on our heads. We'd be responsible for anything that would happen to you, and we simply wouldn't let it. Now, don't give me that look. I'm not doing it to protect you. I just don't want to get chewed out by your grandma, so don't thank me.
If there's nothing else, let's get on the road and kill a vampire. Did you hear that? Sounded like growling.
Was that your stomach?
All right. First, we stop for some snacks, and then we kill a vampire.
You arrived alongside the hunters in the town of East Lodge maybe 2 or 3 hours later. You stayed in your room the entire time. You did nothing but look out of your window. You knew how to read and write. You didn't bring anything with you, so you couldn't do either of those things. When you felt the carriage come to a stop, you exited your room. Swan and Raven were up front, looking out the window. Swan turned around and regarded you briefly, but then looked out the front window again.
Mouse, come look at this.
You did as they asked, and looked out at the front of the carriage. There were a myriad of men in raincoats with torches gathered around something on the ground. It was a person. They were covered in dirt, and from what you could see due to the encroaching night, also covered in blood. It was a corpse, you instantly thought. You felt your stomach drop and your blood run cold. You sat behind them, trying to gather your thoughts. Raven turned around to look at you. First time seeing one? No, huh? Well, doesn't get much easier, so no surprise. Don't let it get to you. Just imagine them sleeping. Remember why we're here. If you can't inspect them and let us know what happened, we're taking you back.
What Raven means to say is that if you do not think you can do this, please let us know and we will return you home. No questions asked.
All right. Then, if you say you can handle it, I'll hold you to it. Let's hop out and talk to him and see what happened to our choir girl. All three of you exited the carriage, and the light storm of the night hit your head immediately. You pulled the cowl of your cloak over your head and hid your arms and shoulders underneath it. Raven and Swan put on brimmed hats and walked ahead of you. They regarded one of the men, and he walked over to you. Raven motioned you to stay put, and you did so. They had a brief conversation, with gestures, pointing, and a mix of expressions. Eventually, the man called out to the other guards standing around, and they left the premises. Raven turned back to you and motioned you to follow again.
I can't thank you all enough for coming. This town has never been known for its troubles, so we had no idea what to do.
Well, I can't blame you. These things can be quite the shock when it rarely happens. The party's family has been notified, I presume?
Yes, we alerted her family a few moments ago. They're likely grieving as we speak.
Ah, hardest part of the job. All right, let's take a look. Mouse, would you be so kind as to give us a diagnosis of sorts?
Hold on, who is this? We agreed to 2 hunters. We weren't notified of any others.
I assure you, my good man, our friend here is a capable investigator.
Or so they would have us believe.
Please, allow them to inspect the body to give us the information we require.
Very well. If you would, please investigate what happened to Mrs. Terrence.
Mrs. Terrence? I was told Annabeth was a choir girl. I wasn't aware they could marry.
They didn't tell you. Not surprising, since we simply found out a few hours ago. This isn't Annabeth. This is another victim, I'm afraid. Mary Ann Terrence. Mother of 3, devoted wife, gifted tailor. She was only 31.
What? You mean to tell us we have a serial killer on the loose?
It seems that way.
Then we'll have to work fast. And you better pay us even more per victim. We're not going after a gifted killer for peanuts.
My charming friend has a point, I'm afraid. The more dangerous the criminal, the more expensive their removal. You understand.
I can't negotiate that, but I can assure you the mayor will have no problem increasing your reward for the finished job. Implying you finish it, of course.
You haven't heard of us, clearly.
No, we haven't. Which concerns us. Are you going to inspect the body or not? Do we need to hire another investigator?
Hey, Rat is plenty capable, aren't you? Well, don't stare at me. Get to work. Swan, give him some light.
Of course. Here, I'll hold up the lantern. Please, don't mind us.
Well, you knew why you were here, but you still didn't want to do it. You'd seen bodies before, men pelted to death by gunfire and even a few wild animal attacks, but this was not at all what you were expecting. Many bodies you've seen were peaceful, or at least in severe pain. This one showed no expression, Horror was the only thing you could see in her lifeless eyes. It haunted you, but you knew if you stared too long it would only get worse. That Raven would likely kick you in the rear. You knelt down, and light was shown over the wound. Blood covered the ground under her, and the moment you saw the blood and the wound, you no longer noticed the horrified expression. Your emotion changed from dread to curiosity. You reached down to touch it, and then stopped. You turned towards the guard.
What? Gloves? Why do you need gloves? What do you mean, why? They're touching a dead body. Why would you not use gloves? It's disgusting.
I've touched dead bodies without gloves before.
Ugh, did you wash your hands afterwards? And before?
Well, of course. It's not so bad. Seriously, touch it. No, go on.
I'm not touching. I'm
It's
not
harmless. It
touching
won't
it.
hurt you.
Stop.
Come on,
Stop.
just,
I don't want to touch
it's
it. I'm not
that
touching
bad.
it.
All right, fine. Coward.
Oh, no, I am not
A joke. Funny. Get it?
Not funny. Didn't laugh. Hey, rat. I have a spare pair here. Put 'em on.
What about the one you're wearing on your right hand now?
I'd smack you, but a guard is watching and we're within his jurisdiction. How long have you been working together exactly? Too long.
Not long enough, if you ask me.
Well, I didn't.
How have these two gotten this far, you thought? You put on the gloves that Raven gave you and wondered if he was a germaphobe. Probably. You moved the neck around gently to inspect how long the wound was. You determined the wound was about 1 inch deep on both cavities, but the wound being near the jugular made it, even the smallest incision, potentially fatal. You looked closer to see some pale extract mixed in with the blood. You opened your satchel and pulled out a small syringe. You extracted what you could and left the rest. You inspected it in the lantern's light, curiously. Could this have been vampire venom? Venom from vampires was lightly visible, but it was always there in bites. It was used to relax the muscles in the victim to prevent them from fighting back. It was very effective. You heard the rustling in the leaves next to you about 10 feet away. Instantly, fear struck your heart. What could it have been? You froze and stared for a while, your mind playing tricks on you. You decided you were probably just being ridiculous, and the dark was getting to you. You deciphered that it was a raccoon, and when you looked to your right, you saw a squirrel scampering out of it. Either way, it eased your mind to know that everything that lurked in the dark wasn't bad. You heard rustling again. Must have been another squirrel. Then, you heard a guttural growl. You looked up, then back at the bush, to see a figure jump out. It instantly made a beeline for you, and in the darkness, all you could see that it very much wanted to kill you. It sprinted out of the bushes and made a disgusting sound and jumped right for you. You reached for your dagger but missed the handle. You foolishly looked down to adjust your hand positioning, grabbed it, looked up, and a brief howl of gunfire rang through the night, and your attacker laid on the ground beside the victim, motionless. You looked at the others to see Raven holding the pistol he pulled on you in his left hand, smoke emitting from the barrel. He tilted the gun, opening the chamber, and refilled it quickly. He closed it, spun it, and put it back in its holster. You looked over at Swan, who was clutching their chest, trying to catch their breath.
You're lucky one of us pays attention, rat. That one really wanted your biscuits. Hell of a shot. But what about you? You just stood there, screamed, and turned away.
I do not like jump scares.
Jump scare? What? Leave them be. They're a fantastic hunter that you're getting at a fraction of what they're worth. They're just a giant wuss, that's all.
Bite your tongue. Ooh, boy, that was close, huh, Mouse?
You stared at them incredulously. This person swore to protect you, and the one that came to your aid was the one you didn't like. Still, you thought, even if he was a jerk, for that one moment, he looked kind of cool. Then he caught you glimpsing at him and made a disgusted face. Never mind, he really is just a jerk after all.
Anyway, let's take a look to see what wanted rat for dinner.
You all peered down at the monster, lantern showing its brutal face faintly. Its skin was gray and slimy, and its teeth were half of all of its head. It had beady black eyes, and most recently, a bullet hole in the side of its head. Its fingers were clawed and long. It looked to be about 3.5 feet tall.
Oh, a gray-footed ghoul, huh? One of the not-so-common ghoul species.
What's it doing around here, then? Wandering aimlessly? The species sets up nests in forests and only leaves them when they smell food. Ghouls have an excellent sense of smell. They can smell rotting corpses far sooner than us. They can smell corpses up to a mere 6 hours after they were killed within a 3/4 mile radius. But how did this one smell the victim? She's only been dead for 3 hours.
Simple, really. The time of death is wrong.
But that would mean...
Yes. There could be more corpses that we don't know about.
Take us to East Lodge. We gotta talk to that mayor sooner rather than later. Because if you got corpses lying around, ghouls are gonna come running for them. So, are ghouls causing this problem?
That's how it would seem. Ghouls don't typically drink blood, but they do bite when threatened or provoked.
What is it, Rat? Inspect the ghoul's fangs. Why the hell would you want to do that?
Check for venom. Go right ahead, I suppose.
You knelt down and inspected the fangs. Its lifeless eyes were terrifying, but you pressed on. You opened its lips and wiped its teeth with a cloth. You then chipped away at them. They were fetid and rotting. You broke off a piece of the tooth and put your syringe into the middle and extracted it. You immediately ignored everyone and walked back to the carriage with your extracted venom samples.
What the? Hello? What'd you find? Hey, Rat! Are you listening? And they're gone.
How exciting! Even the newbie is getting pumped up. Really makes me want to get things done. Come along now, Raven.
How? How was I convinced to let this happen? So should I meet you back in town?
Yes, but one favor before you leave.
Yes?
Move the body. Don't want blood on the wheels.
Move the... Oh. Man, I should have brought gloves.
No comment. I remember you telling me that ride into East Lodge was one of the fastest yet slowest of your life. It was the fastest because you had all of that work to do, testing the venom samples back and forth over and over, deciding which one was which. And then it was the slowest because you knew that on the other end of it, when it was all said and done, there would be a monster to fight. And that scared the hell out of you. Even though that the hunters told you over and over and over again that you wouldn't have to fight. You knew deep down that you were going to. It's one thing about you that everyone that ever came across you liked. For being such a tiny, dainty little creature. You sure were the first one to want to kick ass. People liked that about you. Which I'm sure you will find out. In the meantime, though, I think it would be best if you took a nap. I know you just woke up, but you did just walk halfway across a tundra in little to no clothing. So, I think it might be best if you take a breather. Besides, I'm gonna head out, and I'm gonna go get some firewood, because I feel like freezing to death would be a really unfortunate thing to do. You know what I'm saying? What? You have a question. What is it? Who am I in this story? I'm sure you'll figure that out in no time. Until then, sleep well. Oh, and I left a blanket there. It's scratchy and annoying, and, well, it's not great. But it's all I got, so feel free to use it. Don't worry about me. I know plenty of ways to stay warm. Sweet dreams, rat.